You any thing from Darwin that springs to mind?
The thing that most stuck in my mind was that you bring up all the time is this idea of Baba was Gina Darwin's companion.
Yeah.
And so that's what I learned from that's one of the big takeaways I got from being with them was make Baba your companion.
Yeah. Yeah, I always had the feeling that Baba just went around just adoring Darwin and Jean wherever they went because they were like a couple of kids remembering Baba. And although Darwin could turn and suddenly speak from a great depth, but it was a companionship that was the hallmark of their relationship with Baba. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mayor Prasad is here.
Can I ask what feels like a naive question?
Yeah.
When people were companions with Baba, like Darwin, was there an interpreter? Like, did Erich go?
Oh, what we're saying is he had this inner companionship or whatever.
Okay.
I mean, of course, he was with Baba a lot too, but when we knew him, this was, after 69. So,
Okay.
yeah, he opened up and didn't have any blocks between him and Baba, so Baba could just jump right, live right in his house and also his heart. Yeah. There was a beautiful talk. I mean, Dr. Harry Kenmore and Erich, after Bob had dropped his body, would go for walks and they would get into talks. And Harry, being blind and all, he had a tape recorder. So a lot of these things were taped. And at one point, Harry was saying, people talk about feeling Baba's presence. Basically, he said, I'm not attracted to that. And the conversation went on, and then suddenly Harry said, we have to become his residents. And Erich said, write that down, make note of that. It puts into English a certain kind of intimacy. Make him your residence. Make yourself his residence.
Yeah.
Beautiful way of expressing it in the English language. Or last week, I remembered that Erich used to talk about Baba, his kind of experience. That Baba was a shadow, was a statue, and if you hit a statue and you get hurt, you give it a punch. You can't blame the statue for hurting you. He said, Baba is for him was like a statue. He's not out there trying to get us in an active way. But so he happened to hear that, and he sent this to me. And this is Baba let me just see, it's back in the 20s, but I'll read it because I think it's telling, and maybe it'll come up in the context of Darwin's book. This is, Baba said, I am always changeless. I am ever equable. For instance, you look into a mirror. It will reflect you as you are. If you are serious, you will look serious in the mirror. If you are smiling, you will be seen smiling. If you contort your features, you will be seen with your face contorted. If you laugh, you will be seen laughing. The difference will be in you, not the mirror. There is no change in the mirror. The change is in your facial expressions. The mirror is changeless, immovable, and always steady. I too am like a mirror. The change you observe is in you, not me. I am always so constant. Here it is. I am always so constant and still that it cannot be imagined.
There was this lovely thing I found on A Birthday Remembrance in 1954 by Darwin. Although Baba is just completing his 59th year, there is so much about him that is timeless that it is difficult for us to think of him in terms of age. The great being behind that face and form we know and love so dearly is, as we are sure, not measurable by the passage of time, but is as immortal as the divine love with which we identify him. In celebrating Baba's birthday, therefore, we are really celebrating the return to earth of love divine in the form of a man we can see, love, and with whom we can communicate. A being who has ages since completed the long evolutionary process of the soul through numerous cycles of lives from the original state of unconscious divinity to the final state of fully realized godhood. This is Baba, our spiritual master, eternal friend, and divine beloved. We have found in him the living beauty of all our highest hopes, and we have experienced through his grace a precious taste of the divine nectar, which is indeed the true panacea for all the suffering, disillusionment, and Mayavic ignorance, which in one way or another besets all humanity. And this divine nectar is the touch of the Master's boundless compassion, which has somehow, in mysterious ways known only to him, found us in our far corners of the earth and awakened some measure of our slumbering consciousness from the darkened dreams of life, as seen through the distorted vision of our own selfhood.
Beautiful. Yeah, he had a great camera angle on Baba. You know, it's interesting because he told me once that he had been Joseph of Arimathea in the time of Jesus, and his daughter said that he had been Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson. And the writing has that kind of eloquence to it. And they looked a little bit alike too.
Yes. It also reminded me of the statement of, it is not who we are coming to Baba, but Baba finding us and bringing us to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Finding us in the far corners of the world and reeling us in.
Of the earth, and awaken some measure of our slumbering consciousness from the darkened dreams of life, as seen through the distorted vision of our own selfhood.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
There is this part where a dream within a dream within a dream.
Yeah.
In some bits where I have read with Baba's take on dreams about mostly being mental apparitions, and stuff. So I just want to know if you could elaborate on Baba's take on what we term as dreams.
Yeah, well, I think he's just dividing up this whole dream into three internal or concentric dreams. There's the dream of the gross world, dream of the subtle world, and dream of the mental world. They're dreams within dreams within dreams. I mean, that's kind of a way they put it. Baba quoted this from Hafiz, and I think it's Baba's own translation. A thousand times I've ascertained and found it to be true that the world and the affairs of the world are nothing into nothing.
Wow.
But that's not very appealing when you want to buy a new house or something, or you want to get a college education and go into debt. I'll tell you but early on, in the very early days of my being with Baba, I was in New York City at college, and everything, I saw everything as a dream. And it went on for 3 days, and I could not stand, I did not like it because my heart held back. I mean, you know, your heart, my heart would not go forward to something that was just a mirage. It was very disturbing. But then Baba convinced me, whether it's a dream or not, it's worthy of your love. And he kind of got my heart to go forward because like I say, faced with that, you know, my heart would not budge. It wouldn't go for anything so false. But there's love behind the dream, so it's love flowing into love.
Oh.
Even, yeah.
Thank you.
What an interesting experience.
Oh yeah, it was awful. I couldn't stand it.
And there is one part I remember in Baba telling someone that even if I come in your dream and tell you something, you shouldn't be believing that as well.
Yeah.
I forgot the whole story, but I remember this little part in it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He's about as real as you can get in the dream. Have a few moments of silence, shall we?
That'd be great.
Before we begin. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
So, so most of you know the routine. Angela will call on somebody, and you can read a section, or you can pass. And really, don't be shy. Speak up, you know, because a lot of what you share helps to fill out the meaning of what Darwin says. You know, he might say something that's, what can I say, abstract, and it's nice to get the examples from your side. And I just wanted to say, like I said last week, Darwin was very kind of unassuming and low key and laid back. And he usually wouldn't give any advice, rarely gave advice, and only if somebody had invited him to respond. And occasionally he would throw something out, make a statement unbidden. And this is one of the statements that he made when I was young, around 1970. And you might find it rather interesting. So we had a meeting at their house. It was a small house and very homey and just filled with Baba's presence. They'd had meetings there since 1935 I don't know if in that specific house, but most of that time, the earliest Baba meetings in this country were in their house. But after the meeting, everybody was kind of milling around, and Jean, his wife, was pouring out apple juice and cookies and that. And I found myself kind of standing near Darwin, and he looked at me and he said, "Jeff, you are not the personality self." Now, I didn't have any place to put that. You know, I mean, I thought, well, I don't know I felt the truth of what he was saying at some level. And I said, oh, I'll just file that away and see if I evolve into the meaning of that. But up to that point, I had always thought, well, the whole purpose of my life is to try to get to know myself more and more deeply, and then go on and improving myself until I reach the goal. And here Darwin is saying, I am not the personality self. I mean, that would be like saying, Marinaz, you are not Marinaz. You know, Ruth Apple, you are not Ruth Apple. I mean, what do you do with it? And he used to say, the personality self is just a storefront for the soul. And we make such big deal of the window displays, and we change them with the seasons and everything, when we could go inside and enjoy the priceless merchandise within. And what is that? What are we really? We are really the soul behind this apparatus. We are the soul behind this personality self. But that, at the time, I didn't have any place to put that. But what he did is he introduced some termites into my consciousness that ate away bit by bit the apparatus that supported my personality. It's still, those termites are still at it. But I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's one of the themes of this book, is pulling out of being so hardcore identified with our limited self and moving toward our higher self, which is the soul. So that's kind of the movement. And like I say, he didn't normally say things like that, but I'm so glad that he did, because it challenged my traditional ways of thinking of things. Anyway, so let's begin.
All right, we are on page 7 of the book, The Logic of Experience, and that's page 4 in the PDF.
The logic of experience. For ages, we have been addicts to illusion, but have not realized it. Imprisoned, but we have not known it. We have been dwelling in semi-darkness when, by a little effort, we could be dwelling in the light. Fortunately, there are mechanisms that are built into this whole creation process that will eventually impel us to conclude that the only important goal is realizing the truth, and that everything else is a hallucinatory nightmare. These mechanisms include periodic revelations or awakenings given by the master. But the primary mechanism is the natural maturing process. Our many lifetimes of experience whereby we naturally turn to the spiritual path, and this process involves disillusionment. We are like the mule a fellow is negotiating to buy. Does he obey, the buyer asks the owner. Sure, the owner replies. Show me, the buyer demands. The owner then picks up a big stick and starts beating the mule over the head. Hey, what are you doing? Cries the buyer. You said this mule obeys. He does, said the owner. But first you have to get his attention. Mayor Baba tells us that the logic of experience gathered through many lives drives everyone sooner or later to the spiritual path. Actually, he says several lives, but I think that for the vast majority of us, it has taken many lives. This inner logic drives everyone to the spiritual path because we learn after a while that by continuing in the realm of desires and gross thoughts and gross actions all the time, we ourselves are creating the conditions that will cause us to reincarnate again and again.
I was laughing like at this, that I don't know whether I like the resemblance of being like a mule or not. That once in a while I should be hit on the head with the stick, wake me up. I don't know. I like it sometimes, but not all the time. I think if I'm given time to wake up, I can, but it just sometimes being able to wake up by a stick, by a hard something in life, that's painful. And
Yeah.
it had happened to me quite a bit actually, but I knew the whole reason behind it. So I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm like you. Yep.
Yeah, no, I think we've all been hit over the head by life many times, but we have grown, and we're still above ground, folks.
And Cindy, go ahead.
Few hours, I've had the most unpleasant, agitating, not pleasant thoughts, frustrations, feeling some self-loathing. I mean, coming from, I had a beautiful morning with the 7 realities with Roshani and Roshni and the RT, and then a full beautiful day. And I'm like, what the heck is this? This self-disgust out of wherever, and for my body. So, so in any event, I was going to consider not coming to Effort and Grace, one of my favorite things tonight. And my sister said, "What, are you crazy?" Favorite thing. Let me get rid of this. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I was in such a state that I thought, I don't even want to come to Effort and Grace, which is crazy. It's like one of my favorite things. It's like raindrops and roses and whiskers and kittens, Effort and Grace, and warm wool and mittens. And right away, Jeff, like you are not the personality self. The ego had me in the grip of my personality self and starting to find all the flaws in myself and in humanity, and then pulling out of the identification of the limited self and the addiction to illusion. I mean, it's this whole paragraph right here. So what I'm really just so amazed is that how I think what happens is that right before some of these events where we're going to immerse ourselves in the lightness, the remnants come up like a monster to be seen. And then I can tell you that I just feel poof.
Yeah.
I remember now. And not that there's something so horribly wrong with me. It's like Baba pull, like the good and bad that flies out of you. All of a sudden I was like, what the heck? So I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for my sister's wisdom that said, are you crazy? Of course you need Effort and Grace.
Beautiful.
So thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
Baba. Thank
wonderful.
you, Darwin. Thank you, everybody.
Great.
I had a very similar day, only mine was with anger. I was angry about everything, even though there were some really beautiful things. I was like, and I couldn't get out of it all day. And so I don't know if there's something in the air today or what, but it was really tough. It ended well because there was something I was supposed to do that I didn't really want to do, but I said I would do. And one of my friends who's not even a Baba lover, but I talk about Baba a lot with them, said, why don't you ask Baba? And if you're not supposed to do it. And I did, like about 35 minutes before it was supposed to happen, maybe 40 minutes. And just as I was getting all ready, saying, okay, I said I would do it. I've got to keep my confidence up and just do this. The phone rings and they canceled. And so it's like, oh, great. Baba really is listening to me, even though I'm racka-placking all day.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, but it was a tough day. I don't know what, I just I just finally looked at Baba's picture and I said, boy, you're really putting it to me today. It was really, it was interesting anyway. So I just wanted to add that, because Cindy had it like when she was feeling bad about herself. I was mad at myself for allowing myself to be in the situation that was aggravating me. So
yeah. It's kind of crazy. We what we do is we check our wall of sanskars to see how we're doing. Instead of going further within, we say, oh, it's overcast today. I'm stuck with an overcast day, when we could go a little deeper where it's lighter and more pleasant.
Mm-hmm. Instead, probably made more samskaras swearing.
From what I remember, Iruch, before he came to Baba, he always felt kind and all love and everything towards other people. And few years after coming to Baba, he realized that he was feeling all these judgmental towards others and being unkind and unkind thoughts to other people. And Baba told him that it's like when you when you have a room that is full of dust, you don't feel it, but when you start sweeping it, you feel the suffocation of all that's coming out. And he said that that's what happens when after you come to me, that I start sweeping the floor and you feel all that suffocation because of all the dust that comes out.
Good. Beautiful.
Thanks, Meher. That's perfect. And Gabriella?
So I was thinking, I think today is interesting because it felt to me like I've been holding on so tightly for 4 years and just like wound up. And now I could start to relax. And then all these emotions started to flow out. Like I'm coping, I'm dealing, I'm going to get through this. And now I can let go a little bit. And then all this pain, anger, not about everything, like I've been holding it all together. And I was thinking also that I've been waiting because I had this broken leg, and on Friday I'm going to see the doctor, and I think he might actually put me back in my regular wheelchair. And during this time, like I'm surviving, I'm coping, I'm all wound up. And now that it's the last few days, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm going through all these emotions. So there's something about the beginning of the unwinding process, I think. Well, when we've been holding on and not letting go. Thanks.
Yeah. We've all been there again and again.
Yeah, the dust bunny thing and the dust, that reminds me also of that, what Bob has said about wounds and how it's so important that when you have a wound that you have to clean it out in order for it to heal. So like getting rid of everything that is irritating and festering and whatever that is senscarically, so it can then heal, be cleaned, cleansed, and then healed. And we're in a time like that, I think. And I think everybody's probably experiencing different emotions. I just came back from a little walk, which I forced myself to do. For some reason, I've not had a whole lot of initiative. And on the walk, one of the things I've noticed is in a lot of these Baba meetings, whether it's the RT or Effort and Grace or whatever it is, I have gotten so emotional crying. And I just realized I have been in grief probably since 2009 because there's so many people, I'm going to try not to cry, I love have died. So I just think a lot of things are coming up.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
I just had to hop in on this too, of how much I've been having the experience today also of just a lot of things coming up. And it's a very familiar feeling. And Mickey Singer really talked about it a lot out at Temple of the Universe. He would just call it the heart cleansing that happens when you get close to the master. And it's just, I feel it, it's just like a very intense, like anxiety and pressure, like concentrated right in my heart to the point where it's even hard to sit down a lot. You know, I just kind of have to get up and take a walk outside and just let it kind of move. But it was just mind blowing hearing Cindy talk about her experience today and then other people having that. And it really just blows my mind how interconnected we all are. You know, that if there is a period of cleansing that's happening that's beyond our understanding, how many of us experience that. It's very reassuring to me that we're not alone in this experience. You know, we're all going through the similar process. And I would notice that at Temple of the Universe too, where just everybody, you know, at a certain week would be having a similar pattern, you know, a little different for each person. As far as the specifics of it, but it seemed like a lot of people were going through the same general process. And I don't know if we'll ever understand the synchronicity of that. I know Baba did mention something I read one time that, you know, that astrological things that happen from the planets and the influences are real, but it's kind of beyond understanding unless you're a perfect master. And he said, don't worry about it anyway, because when you come to me, I start taking care of all that. It's nothing really to worry about. But it is still just fascinating seeing the connection between all of us and the similar experiences we all have. It's definitely calms my heart to hear everybody share. Thank you.
No, that's wonderful. Maybe Mayor Prasad can look up that quote about the sparks flying out in Mayor Baba's calling. I don't know. While we go on, maybe you can find that. It's on Mayor Baba's calling. Those who come close to me, they'll find the sparks flying out. Anyway. Okay.
I've got it right here, Jeff. I actually had had it in front of me. It's page 28. The title of it is Become More Intimate with Me. As you all become more intimate with me, with opportunities to come closer to me, all that is good and bad within you comes out in sparks, as it were. All the impressions of the past, the accumulations of past sanskaras, all illusory things, which include both good and bad, come out. My proximity, the intimacy with me just changes that mass of sanskaras, and sometimes you find sparks of good and bad flying out. When you become one with God, the bliss that you experience is eternal and infinite. There is no break in that bliss. It is continual. Life in eternity knows no bondage, decay, or sorrow. Live not in ignorance. Do not waste your precious lifespan in differentiating and judging your fellow men, but learn to long for the love of God.
Beautiful. You had it right there.
It's crazy.
That is amazing. All right. And Ray.
Hi. I just wanted to add that today, for the first time, because Baba has always said, "Tempt me with your love," and I heard that. I guess that we all have, and we pay attention to that. But today, you know what I did? I try and say Baba's name in meditation when I'm not doing like ba, breath in, breath out, and then I said to myself, you know what? I never said this. I said, I love you, Baba. I never said that to him. I felt it, but I never said it. And so today I just started saying, I love you, Baba. And saying it is different than feeling it. That's my my comment. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. The Mandalay have said the same thing. Yeah.
Very nice. And Marcia?
Okay, this just popped up on my phone last night, and I don't know where it came from. Mayor Baba. It says, when mind soars in pursuit of the things conceived in space, it pursues emptiness. But when man dives deep within himself, he experiences the fullness of existence. Mayor Baba, 1964.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been saving all these things, and I've been discovering that I have photos of all these different sayings, and I photographed all the things in the barn, so someday I'll read them, that were in the barn on the wall. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
You know what I did today? I took a walk, and every minute I thank God for how beautiful it was and how everybody on the earth is happy, and that's a gift. And I even recorded some songs I made up, but I'm not going to share them yet. But it's a good, I think God put us through this thing, and now he's ready to heal everything. It's time. Yep. Okay.
Good, thank you. Yeah, we are ready for healing.
Yeah.
I remember Ray saying, I love you, Baba, saying this out loud. I remember Irut, whenever he would embrace anyone, he would quietly whisper, I love you, Baba. And I think that there had to do something deeper than that. Does anyone remember? I think he would literally imagine that he was embracing Baba whenever he would embrace anyone. And I think this was either in the Meherazad Baba's room or either in Samadhi tomb. I don't remember exactly, but I heard this multiple times from various people.
Yeah, what would happen is, when we would come out to Meherazad, he would embrace us and say, Jai Baba Shraddha, Jai Baba Hugh, Jai Baba Mehrnaz, and everything. But on Baba's birthday, when they would gather at 5 a.m. in Baba's bedroom at Meherazad, and there would be some of the Westerners there, whoever was there, he would embrace each one and step back and say, I love you, Baba. And then he would embrace the next one. I love you, Baba. But he didn't do that so much among the pilgrims. That was a little more intimate. But everybody was his beloved in disguise. He experienced that. Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
That's where we're heading.
Wow. And Rashni?
Jai Baba. So just based on what Jeff said right now about Erach telling I love you, Baba, there's this little part which is also by Darwin, which says Baba himself declared the importance of this personal contact when he said, no explanations or discourses can compare with the personal contact. I feel I am in awe. It is Baba bowing down to Baba. Baba made this statement at the so-called Little Darshan on September 26th, which was given for those who, because of the huge crowd on the 12th of September, were unable to contact him on that day. At this Little Darshan, about 8,000 people filed past him, touching his hands or his feet, or placing sweet-smelling garlands of jasmine around his neck. Baba said, whatever anyone takes me for, I am that. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Yep.
Meher Baba tells us that the logic of experience gathered through many lives drives everyone sooner or later to the spiritual path. Actually, he says several lives, but I think for the vast majority of us, it has taken many lives. This inner logic drives everyone to the spiritual path because we learn after a while that by continuing in the realms of desires and gross thoughts and gross actions all the time, we ourselves are creating the conditions that will cause us to reincarnate again and again and again. A dream within a dream within a dream. Our lives may seem to be long and meaningful, but truly, life is very short. We all have to drop our physical bodies someday. Then what happens? We go through a transitional period, and after a while, we come back into another body and do the same thing all over again. Meher Baba has told us many times that we are addicted to a mere dream within a dream within a dream. We argue with that because this life seems so real to us. Baba then explains that when we are asleep and dreaming, we have the same feeling of realness. But when we wake up, we realize that it was a dream after all, and that our feelings in the dream were just transitory and of no consequence. And that is the way our lives are. After ages and ages, the dream of illusion, eventually becomes a nightmare for the soul. We finally experience so much delusionment that we get fed up with being enslaved at the gross level, and all those temporary things that are no longer a lure and attraction for us have to be let go. Then we turn to the heavens. We turn within. We turn to God, Baba within. We turn to the beloved and cry out, what am I doing here? Isn't there something more, Baba? What is it all about? What is real? Eventually, after numerous incarnations, we become mature enough so that we can start to withdraw our consciousness from its attraction to the world and begin the involuntary path toward inner freedom. This is the spiritual path toward reality, toward God, toward Baba. It is an unfolding process, a natural process of growth, of maturity, of refinement. In other words, we are growing.
Any comments, any questions, anything to share?
Was that involutionary path?
Yeah.
Begin the involutionary path? Okay.
Yeah.
It sounded like involuntary.
Yeah. It's probably similar, but not quite the same. Yeah. Any?
Oh, you can go ahead, Jeff. It wasn't urgent or anything.
Well, I was just going to say one of the metaphors that Darwin gives is consciousness has this, it's like an octopus, and it has these tentacles that go off into the world. It gets enmeshed in the world, and the whole process, and it gets enmeshed in the personality self, and the whole business is withdrawing the tentacles of consciousness from being enmeshed in the world and being enmeshed in ourself, so that they come back, they're behind the whole thing, you know, and that's the beautiful place to be, at that place behind all of this. And that in itself fills up with love and light. But it's so enmeshed in things, it everything seems a little bit dark and suffocating, and and we're caught up in it. So that's the metaphor that he gives, that's, I think, very good.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jeff. That actually helped a little bit what I was thinking about. I guess I'm more posing a question here to you and to everyone else. It's definitely something I don't claim to know the answer to. And I don't know if there is really one answer to it. I mean, just given the illusion that the material world is, and just the seeming just kind of meaninglessness of a lot of it, my question has to do with our work in the world. And two, of course, you know, there's the option of withdrawing from the world, you know, into seclusion, and that life that Baba doesn't seem to really recommend for us. And then the other approach, at least the way my mind is seeing this with work, is having a job where you're very involved and committed, and it's offered up in service and seva, and your job kind of becomes, you know, a huge part of your spiritual path and how you serve through love. And the other approach I've kind of seen with some people is to really minimize the amount you're working in the world, and, you know, use a lot of your time to focus on the spiritual path and to just have kind of bare minimal involvement with it. And I've always taken the approach of the hard work and working quite a bit. And after quite some time in that dynamic, it can really weigh heavy on you, being caught up with so many people that aren't doing this work. And when I heard Darwin's approach, where he didn't take those big promotions and he didn't really seek to get deeper into his work, but he was just content with doing the small job he had and then spending the rest of his time focusing on Baba. So I guess my question is for everyone, if they have any, or if you, Jeff, have any take on if one way is preferable over another, or if it's just really so different for everybody, there's really no answer to this. I'm in a big career transition right now, so
yeah.
it's interesting.
No, very good question. So anyone respond to what Anthony is saying there?
It was really in response to what Jeff was saying about the tentacles, and I didn't understand where they came from, and if he was talking about sanskaras, or so I kind of had an image of an octopus in the brain, but I know that's not right. So I just I know he talked about tentacles going into the world, and he says you have to get behind that. I was just trying to understand what he was saying. So
yeah, well, we'll keep Anthony's question on the table. It's we kind of go with our consciousness. We go out and we get very involved in the world, and we get very involved in ourself. So in withdrawing our consciousness from putting so much reality in the world and so much reality in ourself, it withdraws back in at a subjective level, at an inner level, and imbibes actually is more available to love. And ideally, if you can live from that love out, from the love that's behind us, that's behind the personality self, there's a greater richness. So it's withdrawing into that inner realm within ourself and living from there. That's kind of what I always sensed from Darwin, what he was talking about.
But what about the tentacles?
Those tentacles are, you mean how do they get enmeshed in the world?
No, the source. I was trying to understand. I understand about tentacles going out into the world.
Yeah.
And that we get attachments to the world. I get that. I'm trying to understand where they came from and where they are in what Darwin was saying, or how you're describing it.
Right. That's good. A good question. It's the consciousness itself that gets trained out into the world and into the self, and it's reversing that consciousness into the deeper part of ourself, which it appears as a withdrawing of tentacles of consciousness. We pull them back in so that we're more composed within.
Oh.
That's kind of the idea. Yeah.
So the tentacles, are they like extensions of the ego self? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they're consciousness plus the ego self. I mean, the consciousness is what's driving this whole thing. And it gets the ego to go and get involved over here or involved over there. And it's kind of withdrawing the consciousness from the ego, from identification with oneself and the importance of the world. I don't know if, well, anyway, we'll talk about that. That may come up as we go along.
Okay, thank you.
There's a lot of hands up. I think they're going to answer Anthony's question. Patty, go ahead.
Yeah, this was in response to Anthony, and I don't know if I'm just going to share it. I had a path of self-employment, always knowing something of a calling inwardly to do manual labor as a cosmetologist, a hairdresser. And went against a lot of my part of my family's desire for me to be in college and et cetera, et cetera. And there could be more for me if I didn't do this and yada, yada. So, but, you know, somewhere in me, there was this calling that led me down that path. And for 33 years, I had self-doubt. In some aspect, the ego was saying, well, you could have been better. You could have had a college degree. You could have did this. You had a free ride to Reed College, blah, 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 blah. So there were all these things going on in my head. But as my life develops with Mayor Baba at the age of 19, and I'm 71 now. So it's a long path of recognizing and accepting that the work that I had been called to do in the world was already karmically, sanskarically impressed and was playing outwardly. And I was exactly in the right place, doing the right thing for 33 years. And it may not be when you say you're in a career change now, and this may not apply, but I always thought I would go on and do something else. And there have been things that have happened, but I felt like my role was the conduit to the other souls that came into the proximity of my hands, and it looked like they were getting a haircut and it looked like things happened, but there was always Baba's picture there, and the conversation was always around my trips to India, the Mandali, et cetera, et cetera. So the focus was a lot about Baba, but it appeared on the outside a lot about identity. And my shop was even called Identities, which was ironic when I thought about that. But it's an interesting process. I think when you look in your soul, or look to the soul, look to the source, look to Baba, we already have our life's path here. And it'll unwind, I believe, naturally as you really get closer to knowing, which it appears you do know, that your path is to God. So I would just settle in and keep looking to that place inside yourself, what'll be the guidance for the gifts that you have. Everybody comes on this planet with their gifts, and their gifts should be used. Jai Baba.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Patty.
Yeah.
I think you probably heard got a lot of from Baba while they were getting fixed up.
Anthony, I think that for me personally, I was given something. I didn't know it was given by Baba, but it was something healing and something for me very deep. I've done it a lifetime, and I continue to do it. And I feel like I never knew this, but I feel like I'm doing the work I'm supposed to be doing. And since I've always been a spirit seeker, but since I found Baba, my work seems 40 times better, if that's possible. And not only, there are times I talk about him, but I feel like, not that I am him, but I'm doing his work. I ask him to be with me all day, and I feel it's healing. I feel that I get to help people in their lives in a healing way that's deeper than what I do is clean teeth. And it feels way more intense than that, way more heart to heart on a lot of levels. And I have so much gratitude. And it is laborious, you know, it's intense scaling teeth all day long, but it's, I don't know, it feels, I guess what I'm saying is you want it to come, it's not just work. You want it to be an expression of who you are and who Baba sees in you.
Beautifully said, Terry. Lovely. Lovely. Yeah.
And Stuart.
Yeah, some very nice things being said, and I agree. I feel like Baba really guided me a lot of years ago. Mainly, I've been self-employed my whole adult life, and I I feel like Bob will let me know, number one, it's about making him the most important in whatever it is I'm doing, and trying to carry his light and his love with me, trying to be the best of me for him, with him, and trying to treat others well. And aside from, trying to be the best at, he used to say, think of yourself as the best at whatever you do. So trying to give good service, whatever that was, but making him the number one in it, so, theoretically, you could be washing dishes in McDonald's and carrying God's light and love with you and wanting to treat others well and also do your job responsibly at the same time.
Yeah, beautifully. This is great to hear.
And Peter.
All right, for Anthony, in response, I have about 3 items. One of them is long, one of them is Erich, though. When it came to, I have a friend that's a spiritual mentor of mine, and he was a high-level manager many years. And how many times I'd go to him with a family issue or a work-related issue, and I'd say, it sounds like this is a no-win situation. And he says, guess what? You're right. And we have a conversation. He says, yes, that's time when you remember God and take a lot of deep breaths. And if I could, there's a part of Erich from What Should We Do that I'd like to read. That's cool.
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
All right. And this is something I fall back on because someone said, when he looks at everybody he knows, I'm the one that looked to be the most perfect with what I was doing right. And that's like a disease, trying to be perfect all the time. It's from Erich. That's how it is. What should we do? Again and again, and understand it's not sexy, but it's so. Again and again, it comes back to the same truth. Live a normal life. All these questions, what is good? What is bad? Should I do this? Should I refrain from doing this? Will it feed my ego if I do it? But if I don't, isn't that simply being selfish? And so ad infinitum. There's no end to questions, and there is no end to answers to these questions. Don't get involved in trying to figure it out. Easier said than done. That's Peter. Meher Baba wants us to lead an ordinary, normal life in accordance with how you are guided inwardly. Do what you feel intuitively prompted to do, but all the time, this should be based on the solid foundation of being his. Whatever you do, whatever you undertake, dedicate it to him. Don't even think, is it right? Is it wrong? Is it good or bad? Is it a strength or a weakness? Just dedicate everything to him. Gradually, dishonesty will fade. Gradually, other things will fade, and more unadulterated love and honesty will grow. You cannot begin with a clean slate, as it were. You must begin from where you are. We all have weaknesses, but analyzing and dissecting our motives, trying to understand whether we are being prompted by selfishness or unselfishness, will not eliminate our weaknesses. It will only drive us crazy and make it impossible for us to do anything. The only way to get rid of our selfishness is to go ahead and do something, but dedicate it to him. Now, the last part is an example, which is awesome. For example, say you decide to pick up junk from the street so that the streets will be kept clean and tidy. This is a good, in quote, a worthy, worthwhile enterprise. So you start to do it. But you notice very quickly that there is a strong desire in you to have others notice you doing this. You find yourself thinking, what a good example I'm setting. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this for everyone's welfare, and people should be grateful to me. Perhaps after a while, you even want to call attention to yourself, or you get angry when others don't notice what you are doing. You may even become resentful that you are not being properly appreciated. Or then again, your ego might fasten itself upon the fact that others are not noticing you. See how spiritual I am, that I am doing this even though no one is noticing or praising me for it. In short, the ego is very much present. But so what? The ego is always present. It is the nature of the ego to seize upon whatever we do and use it to strengthen itself. So what is the solution? The solution is to simply keep on doing what you are doing. After a while, that initial zeal may be gone. You may lose your enthusiasm. But if you continue, even if it is mechanical on your part, the selfish aspects of your behavior with time will fade. Eventually, you will completely forget about all those other considerations, and you will find yourself picking up the junk from habit solely from the desire to keep the streets clean. It honestly won't matter to you whether others notice you doing it or not. You won't expect them to praise you, and it won't bother you if they condemn you. The action, by being dedicated to Him, becomes purified. And a separate quote, which I found, is, as Erich once commented, the work is only an excuse that Baba uses to work on you. He grinds your ego by working on your sanskaras. If you resign to him completely and become his slave, then he will give you the experience of real freedom.
Great.
I'll pass with that.
Yeah, very apropos. Boy, Anthony's getting a lot of stuff dished onto his plate. That's excellent.
I raised my hand in answer to Anthony, and my answer is, in part, what Peter just read. Exactly. And in terms of, is there a right way or is there a wrong way to live your life, immersed in active work or more contemplative? You know, I think it's different for each person and different at different times in each person's life. And until I started coming to Baba, I was leading a spiritual life, and I usually thought I had to figure out the answer to those questions in my head. I can figure this out. I'll know what to do. And I would meditate and get ideas about what to do. But they were ideas and not really the truth for me. And since I've been asking Baba for help with everything, Baba's seeing a lot of me lately, some things have gotten a lot more difficult and uncomfortable. It's like, what does it say here? It says, after ages and ages, the dream of illusion eventually becomes a nightmare for the soul. And I have felt some of that this year, a lot of lack of clarity, a lot of questioning. And I've been asking Baba for clarity. And it kept on getting more painful. And then suddenly, from out of the stars, where I never expected an answer to come, the answer came to me in disguise. And I know exactly the answer to the question that I was asking, what should I do? What should I do? And the answer is about the opposite of what I would have thought it would be. It feels like the easy way out. And it's really the healing path for me because it brings to me the opportunity to heal the area of my life where I have felt shame and brokenness. And it just came out of the stars in Baba's hands as a gift. And my brain would never have told me this is the way for the personality self to be relieved of center stage. So that's my experience and my answer to Anthony in a roundabout way.
Thank you, Betty. Boy, beautiful. Oh, very touching.
And Roshni?
Hi, Jai Baba. This was something that we were talking earlier, which Elizabeth mentioned about the octopus. And I remember this bit of Baba's words on to be in this world, but not of this world. And I'll just read a little bit on something, two parts to it. There's a small book called The Way and the Goal. I declare to all of you who approach me and to those of you who desire to approach me, accepting me as the highest of the high, that you must never come with the desire in your heart which craves for wealth and worldly gain, but only with the fervent longing to give your all body, mind, and possessions with all their attachments. Seek me not in order to extricate you from your predicaments, but find me in order to surrender yourself wholeheartedly to my will. Cling to me not for worldly happiness and short-lived comforts, but adhere to me through thick and thin, sacrificing your own happiness and comforts at my feet. Let my happiness be your cheer and my comforts your rest. Do not ask me to bless you with a good job, but desire to serve me more diligently and honestly, without expectation of reward. Never beg of me to save your life or the lives of your dear ones, but beg of me to accept you and permit you to lay down your lives for me. Never expect me to cure you of your bodily afflictions, but beseech me to cure you of your ignorance. Never stretch out your hands to receive anything from me, but hold them high in praise of me, whom you have approached as the highest of the high. If I am the highest of the high, nothing is then impossible to me. And though I do not perform miracles to satisfy individual needs, the satisfaction of which would result in entangling the individual more and more into the net of ephemeral existence, yet time and again at certain periods, I manifest the infinite power in the form of miracles, but only for the spiritual upliftment and benefit of humanity and all creatures. Then there's another, this a short part from The Search of Reality, another thin booklet. True aspirant seeks direct knowledge of spiritual realities. A true aspirant is not content with knowledge of spiritual realities based on hearsay, nor is he satisfied with pure inferential knowledge. For him, the spiritual realities are not the object of idle thinking, and the acceptance or rejection of those realities is fraught with momentous implication for his inner life. Hence, he naturally insists upon direct knowledge about them. This may be illustrated from the life of a great sage. One day he was discussing spiritual topics with a friend who was quite advanced upon the path. While they were engaged in this discussion, their attention was diverted to a dead body which was being carried past them. This is the end of the body, but not of the soul, the friend remarked. Have you seen the soul? Asked the sage. No, the friend answered. The sage remained skeptical about the soul, for he insisted upon personal knowledge. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a question. It relates to what Anthony said, but I remember reading somewhere, and I don't know, and I'd really appreciate having more information about it, but that during this particular era and time, that rather than having saintly lives spent in caves or isolated from humanity, praying and meditating, that Baba is calling us to be part of, to be in the world, and of course not of the world, but to bring our life and our work into the world. Does anyone have a remembrance of reading something along those lines?
Yeah, no, but Baba says that over and over in many ways. We'll get back to that. But yeah, Baba says to, be in the world, but not of it, and selfless service in the world, but remembering him within. I mean, that's been a theme through Baba for this particular Advent. Not going off to caves, not going off to Rhode Island or someplace like that, No.
And Tina?
Yeah. Well, one thing I really liked about Baba, having been in this self-realization fellowship previous to my finding out about Baba, where there were a lot of rules and exercises and things you had to do, is that Baba said he laid down no precepts and that everyone's path is different. And so, for instance, he would tell some people to meditate or others not to meditate, some to eat meat, others not to eat meat, because of their particular sanskaras. And so I think because Darwin, didn't want anything in terms of career advancement, that doesn't mean that that's the path everybody is going to go on. And that may not be appropriate for them. I happen to be an actor and I'm in show business, and, I'm a pretty ambitious person. And I don't know, I'm not going to judge myself for that. And I think, that's just my path, and that's how I want to share Baba's love of the world by doing the acting thing. So I don't think you can really compare. They say compare and despair. So if Darwin wants to just have a very simple life, that's great. But that's not my particular path. So
Yeah.
I don't think you can really say what's right for anybody else.
Yeah. And Darwin never held his way of life as something that should be modeled. One of the most common phrases from Darwin is phrases that he used to say is about everything. It varies with the individual.
Yeah.
I heard that so many times, that line, it varies with the individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some people may go on and become famous artists, and others may just be cleaning cabins on a retreat center.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, that's the great thing about Baba, is that we all have our paths to follow, and nothing's right or wrong.
There was so much
incredible stuff has happened since I put my hand up, but thank you all. So much beauty has been shared. I was just going to say that for my journey, career work, however you want to call it, I started out in very much in the world of marriage and family therapy, very establishment, and then that kind of fell away, and I ended up doing body work and kind of energy work. But all along, every step was very meaningful. And once it came to Baba, which was in that period, I always felt that with much more ego at the beginning and a little less ego as it went along, I think that I was there, to share about Baba. And then, I had all kinds of medical issues, and I'm sure many people here who have medical issues may relate to this, and things were stripped away from me. And so now my job seems to be to receive care. And I've noticed it's a lot of ego in that. I want everyone to notice how good a patient I am. I want them to see that I also am giving by, being careful with their time and, whatever. I'm noticing all of that stuff. And at the same time, I also feel like I do get to share about Baba with every person that comes around me, or in the same way as washing dishes, whatever you're doing, just your essence is being in the world, being with Baba, being his, that must count for something. Thanks.
Yeah, beautiful. So true, Gabriella. I'll just say one thing that Baba said early to me back in the 60s that became kind of a theme of my life, where he says, where I was in great mental turmoil, but Baba said, in every moment, there's something loving that can be done. So it comes down to this moment, he said, just look around. It's kind of what he indicated. There's a child that wants someone to play with them, or a friend is going through difficult times, or there are so many things, but it came down, he didn't say every day something loving could be done. He said every moment. So of course, it took me about 40 years just to get to this moment in a more abiding way.
For Anthony, it's just simple. For me, I was in a situation, and I knew that there were some paths for promotion, but I knew it would just suck me more into illusion. There'd be so many other things grabbing at me the more that I went into it. So I just, anybody else wanted the job, they could have it. That's what I have to share. Thank you.
And Leica.
Hi. Yes, I just wanted to say about Darwin that he didn't have a little small job. He was in charge of many men in the city works programs, and so it wasn't really a little job, but I think that it was the way that he did it that was more important than the advancement to him. And he used to talk of it as, he felt responsible for the people that he served in the town. And it was beautiful the way he used to talk about his work and this, how he channeled service to the townspeople that he felt responsible to do the best job and to get the best jobs out of the people that worked under him. But I felt like there was more a certain tipping point where to advance further. I mean, he was brilliant, so he could have, gone into politics. He could have been mayor. He could have been any of that. But to go further would have been a tipping point where he couldn't he had no interest in his ego in fulfilling that, but it also would have taken away from his family and Baba, of course, or his focus on Baba, his being available to get to the center or India or whatever. But I'm also reminded of Baba saying, I don't care, it wasn't that he cared about what it was that people did. The world does, the world seems to, but it doesn't really. But it was the quality of the work. So cleaning a latrine could be done with a beautiful heart of service, or it could be done with resentment and bitterness and whatever. So I just wanted to say that heart quality or the intuition within us can guide us into the work and whatever work we're doing to bring the heart of service to it.
No, that was good. That's captures him I was pulled away, but thank you for sharing that.
Jay Baba. This I shared. Someone was speaking about not going to a cave. Baba doesn't require that any longer. But I shared this at Theus Malmberg, if you know him, Theus, and Rachel's 30th anniversary. And this just happens to be number 30 in the book. But it's so good that I'll share it now. You have come on earth to realize God. I do not ask you to go to the caves like the saints of the past. Remain in the world without being entangled therein. Do not renounce your duties with the hope of becoming spiritual. Do your duties, but have no desire for personal gain or reward. Let not your status or achievements fill your mind with false pride. When you offer your mind in love and faith, I do everything through you. You will then be no more bound by what you do. You will be unattached and yet in full action. You will remain free in the midst of your works. You will worry no more about what life brings to you. You will dwell in unshakable peace in spite of the tribulations in the world. You will be my torchbearers.
Beautiful. Wow. Now, Rosalie, who was that?
That's Baba to Narina.
Oh my God.
It's one of the messages. And here I was sharing it at the Australian Grill. Rachel wanted me to be out with, and it was so beautiful because both Rachel and Thea's, so much suffering there that it was just so beautiful to have that said out loud. And and they were celebrating 30 years together, and there was a lot of suffering, but they did have that love and such a connection with Baba. So yeah.
I'll get that quote from you at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. If you have the book, Narina's Gift, it's number 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Stuart?
Yeah, just about Darwin, just a little more. I think he basically went along with his job evolving. He started out with simple physical work and ended up in quite a position of responsibility. But it seems like he didn't seek it, and always the relationship with Baba and him carrying that relationship in every moment was most important to him.
Yeah.
That was a very rich discussion. Thanks, Anthony. All right. Rosalie did have your hand up again.
Yeah, I was thinking of Darwin because whatever he did, you know, he was so focused on Baba. And I love the fact that he was a cowboy. And and being up in whatever, Montana, those wide open spaces, he got a sense of his inner space. And I thought, I mean, I used to live by the North Myrtle Beach airport, and that influenced me. I said, I love living by this airport, you know, because it's spacious, you know, right by my little trailer, you know. But I mean, he was just intent. He was a worker. I mean, he was working all the time on himself. I mean, just amazing. Yeah, and I'm thankful. And he was the very first person that I could feel Baba in Berkeley. He was giving a little talk at this little place, and I thought, wow, it just brought tears to my eyes. So, you know, he was a walking Baba meeting, you know.
Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Yeah, Jai Baba.
Okay. We are on healthy suffering, yes.
Yes.
Meher Baba does not put pressure on people to grow. He lets them grow at their own speed. However, I feel that Baba permits disillusionment as a part of the growth experience because it leads to the detachment without our becoming callous or unfeeling. So we have growing pains which lead to disenchantment, and this will involve a certain amount of healthy suffering. Initially, we are going along, not contesting the flow of sanskaric determination within us. The more we begin to contest this flow within our thoughts, feelings, and actions, the more we may experience a struggle. We are striking out for truth, taking our stand on the truth within. My experiences with Baba have helped me understand and become so familiar with impelling forces such as anger, lust, and greed, that when confronted with them, I would find the antidote, which would vary for each person, appearing within my consciousness, and I could switch gears and transform them right away. We do not want to wait until these forces arise and become so impelling that we are helpless to control them. We need to plan ahead. Before these forces take hold of us and empower us, we need to control them. We need to think them through to their end result and decide for ourselves that this is not the way we want to go. We want to consider ways to counterattack these impelling forces. Redirecting them into less binding channels is one way. As spiritual aspirants, we also have to keep a sense of Baba's presence with us in these situations. My secret strategy is to become aware of Baba himself, his presence in all circumstances. He is the master of every situation. Wow. So true. Jai Baba.
Yeah. Thank you, Mirnaz. You know, I'm reminded of what Mayor Prasad read there, or mentioned. Everything is fine until you start sweeping the room, and then all the dust comes up. That's what, you know. Otherwise, the room didn't seem so bad.
Roshni, go ahead.
I was remembering this one part on how the master works by Ivy Deuce, where she mentions about this little incident of her stomach ache or something that she had for a long time, and Baba asks her to have sulfur, And when she mentions it to a doctor friend, he says, who in the world had sulfur nowadays? Like, why would you even have it? And she feels that, no, my master has told me, so I need to have sulfur. She has, time has passed, her stomach ache, the stomach issue is resolved. And then some time later, when she meets Baba again in India, she has this on her mind, but it's now on the back burner. So Baba, as he usually does, trying to take out things, he says, did you have anything to tell me? And she goes, no. And then Baba pursues it till she says, oh, yes, I wanted to ask you, why did you ask me to have sulfur for my stomach? I'm sure sulfur doesn't really help. So Baba gestures and says, yes, of course, sulfur does not help. It is my will in the sulfur that helps. And I found that part so beautiful. And then she says, I learned the other thing in this incident. I reduces a little part into the chapter that one, that his will is there in the sulfur and that's why it works. And second part is when the master gives you sulfur for your stomach ache, does not mean it is applicable for everybody else's stomach ache. So,
Excellent. Thanks.
yeah, Baba.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's interesting. And Elizabeth?
Okay, so this is more a question again than a comment. So I got stuck on the phrase, however, I feel that Baba permits disillusionment as part of the growth experience because it leads to detachment from our becoming callous or unfeeling. So we have growing pains which leads to disenchantment, which involves a certain amount of health. So the question is, how? What does he mean by Baba permits disillusionment? How is a person, what is he talking about? How is a person disillusioned? Is that when you feel like separated from Baba, or not as close, or no feeling, or dead heart, or stone heart, or I just wanted to know how you saw that. Anybody, how people saw that here.
Yeah, that question about disillusionment, and the reading, which noted thinking things through to their logical conclusion before action. Both of those are connected, obviously, as Darwin has connected them. For me, an example of disillusionment would be, I want ice cream, I eat ice cream, my butt gets big, and I don't like my butt being big. So I become disillusioned with eating ice cream. And so I think it through and I go, hold on, I don't want my butt to get big. I'm not going to eat ice cream that way. So, I mean, you know, I say that with a smile.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, but that's the concept. So a more serious example of that would be somebody has done something to me in a business environment that has infuriated me. And I consider retaliation. And so I enact retaliation, and that has unforeseen consequences. And I suffer those unforeseen consequences because I can't think of everything. And the next time something like that happens, I go, hang on, I'm going to think it through to the end and realize that I don't know how all this could come down. So I'm going to modify what I want to do. So that would be an example of thinking it through ahead of time and modifying based on my thoughts and emotions and actions. I mean, disillusionment is anything. I love gorgeous shoes. I mean, you know, I actually happen to love gorgeous shoes. And I personally have a fantastic pair of gold lame ankle boots that I just love. And
when I walk in those gold lame ankle boots, I feel like $1,000,000. But if I were to twist my ankle because the heels are so high and then be laid up for 2 weeks with my foot in the air, I would become disillusioned about those gold lame ankle boots. So my understanding of disillusionment means that when the consequences of something are experienced and they were not the consequences you anticipated, you change your view of the thing that existed before the consequences, like the gold lame boots that I'm, strutting around in, or some business situation, or anything. So to my mind, disillusionment just means when expectations don't happen the way you wanted them to. And I think that that's the way we learn about the law of karma, which is not just a good idea, it's the law, which is every action has a consequence. And so that's, I think, why Darwin mentions in the reading that lust, greed, and anger, or Jeff, you can tell me what's the whole list. I don't have the...
Yeah, no,
yeah.
those are great examples, and it kind of clarifies.
Yeah, who hasn't experienced disillusionment in regard to lust? Please raise your hand. So I mean, I think disillusionment is a tremendous, wonderful thing. The law of karma is so fabulous, ouch. But as Darwin says, we can anticipate and we can work it through in our heads ahead of time, unless, of course, it's something that's never happened before that you couldn't possibly anticipate. But I don't think, there isn't much, unless you're, 12 or 13, but if you're a grown-up, there isn't much that hasn't happened that you can't figure out what's going to happen, or at least know that something that you might not anticipate could possibly happen. So, yeah, there you go.
Good. Jai Baba. I guess everybody can unmute themselves.
Jai Baba. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, everyone. This was a rich morning. Thank you. Now, good night for me.
Yeah.
Bye.
That's right. You get to go back to sleep.
Good night, Roshni. What a day. Thank you. Jai Meher Baba, sweetheart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Jai
Rashani.
Meher Baba.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rashani.
Yeah, Jai
Thank
Baba
you,
for the
everyone.
meditation earlier.
So Larissa had
Baba.
something to say.
Hi, Jai Baba. I just wanted to point out that for me, what's just jumping out at me is, Baba says, we're addicted to this world and its things, which is illusion. So disillusionment is taking us out of the illusion, whatever the individual way that manifests in our life. Mm-hmm. So he's disillusioning us. And it says that it can be, we can cause suffering. Well, I don't know about you, but there's a withdrawal process in anything that I've gotten off of, like sugar, for example. And there's suffering in that. And there's cravings, and because my ego, my body, or whatever is attached to something. So that's what, just that sort of taking me out of illusion is what I wanted to share. It's like, that's what disillusionment is, right? It's bringing me into reality with what the truth of Baba. So it's painful, but it's also so rich. It's really putting me on the path. And I suppose because I get re-addicted to illusion, I mean, my living room looks pretty real. My husband looks pretty real here. And I'm pretty addicted to illusion, but there's been times when I came to the center because my mom died and I was in an incredible amount of pain.
And I think, Jeff, you've shared that a lot of people come in pain. And that opening, that my heart was broken. And that heart opening was essential. Baba knew exactly when to get me there so that he could work with me. So I was disillusioned. My family was fighting and I was exhausted. But at the same time, what a gift. Biggest gift I got. Thank you, Jai Baba.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Well, after people were talking about it, I started thinking a little more about what disillusionment meant, and what I wrote down so I could remember next time, that so I wouldn't get stuck on, is the disillusionment is the getting negative consequences from our wants, which leads us to choose differently. So that would allow you to plan ahead to modify thoughts, words, and actions. That's just a note to myself, but
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. You know, the ultimate addiction is being addicted to the bottle of self-preoccupation. That's the ultimate one. And I'm going to state this in the kind of eventual ideal. I once said to Merwan Jesawala, he would be at Mirzad 1 month out of the year, and he'd be there in Mandalay Hall all day there, most of the day with Baba. And I'd say, well, what kind of thoughts and feelings were going through your consciousness when you were there with Baba all those many hours? And he said he had no thoughts or feelings. His whole consciousness was over on Baba. Can you imagine? I mean, I was like, what? I mean, most of us would be having, well, I wonder how Baba feels about me or what he's thinking, or we have a whole narrative going on in looking at Baba. And here is, you know, here is someone whose consciousness he's gotten off the bottle of self-preoccupation, and he's got his consciousness on the wine cellar himself, you might say. So that's where we're moving toward. Baba is really going to get us off of addiction eventually. Before I go to Christina, who has her hand up, I just wanted to say, anybody in a little bit, Stu, is anybody wants to stay for a heart-centered meditation? It's short but very powerful. You're welcome to stay on. Okay, Christina.
Thanks. Regarding Darwin and Darwin's ability to perceive the meaning in Meher Baba's words to him or in writing. Darwin was the warm-up speaker for many, many years for Norina, when Norina would do her thought word transmissions and also give talks. And then Darwin gave talks. And so Darwin gave a talk in Woodstock in the first one was in 1965. And at that meeting, Rick Chapman, Alan Cohen, Robert Dreyfus, Richard Albert, Baba Ram Das, and Timothy Leary were all, I believe they were all present. And those people all made decisions toward having a relationship with Meher Baba. Some briefly and some, for the rest of their life. So my respect for Darwin's words is unquestioned. Understanding Darwin's words is the next layer after that layer. Mm-hmm. And I do think that the issue of disillusionment is worthy of a much, much larger conversation. But I will say that, the comment was made about how a disillusioning reaction can take one out of illusion. I would tend to agree with that, in that it shakes up a samskaric attachment. But we need to remember that everything that happens in the gross world and the subtle world and the mental world, and I'm not aware of the subtle and mental world. I live in the gross world. So everything that happens is in illusion. So nothing that happens in illusion can take me out of illusion. That's, it doesn't work like that. So anything that happens in illusion, though, it's our great opportunity. And that's, I think, why Darwin takes the time to write what he wrote in this section in his book, is that it is a great opportunity. You can shake up your sanskaras. You can a little bit loosen the sanskaras. Anyway, so that's just to further support that.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Anything more to?
Well, I just really appreciate these comments that Christina's making. I did not know Darwin was a warm-up speaker for Narina. Had no idea. And I appreciate that explanation of why he concentrated so much on disillusionment. And I like the idea of thinking about it as an opportunity. So maybe that's what this is all about. I mean, people have talked in this session about anger and about feeling bad and about, grief, about all of these things. These are our opportunities, I guess, because they're part of our disillusionment in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, we long for a greater freedom and a greater expansiveness, and to get trapped in narrow experience, it doesn't appeal to us. We're going to go to a wider and wider, more expansive experience, just as kind of written into the script of creation. We want a greater inner freedom. And anything, if drug addiction kind of narrows our life down, eventually we're going to want to pull out of it, because it narrows our life down too much, to a dependency, you might say. Yeah. We got, okay, Jeff Aspel.
There are 3 words that just came to my mind as everybody was talking, but especially the last 30 seconds. And they sound very simple, but they're very powerful. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. I was a sugarholic for many, many years, and about a year ago, I thought I was going to go onto a non-gluten diet. I saw a nutritionist, and I knew when I went back to see him 2-3 months later, I had to get off sugar to let the non-gluten diet do well. And I take off 20 pounds. I stopped the ice cream, the cakes, the cookies, good, delicious breads. And I went back to the nutritionist, and I said, I had asked you to give me some information about a non-gluten diet, but I forgot to ask you, Dr. Kerouac, not related to the other Kerouac that we all know, the Dharma bums. I said, Dr. Kerouac, what is the best diet for me to be on? He said, immediately, you should be on a Mediterranean diet. I didn't say to him, why didn't you tell me that? I'd taken off the 20 pounds. I had broken that addiction. It's been a year later. I'll have a little fruit and yogurt, little cashews at night. That's my sweet. And as a result of staying off that all that white sugar, it's terrible stuff, I had this idea. People have shakes in the morning, but I felt, let me see if I can take off some more weight. So I got some beet powder and ginger powder, and green grass powder, and I made about 10 little powders in a delicious drink in the morning that I heat up. And then I have my wife's cereal, which I cut down by 70%, with a little fruit, and that fills me up, and I took off another 20 pounds. I mention this because For many, many years, I've been wanting to get off that craving for sugar. Enough is enough, but somehow circumstances kicked in. I didn't have the willpower to do it completely on my own, but somehow Baba put the idea in my mind, get on a non-gluten diet. I heard it's very comfortable. And it's so wonderful to be free of that addiction. That's a very strong addiction. And thank you, Baba. I'm completely not addicted to it, and I intend to stay away from it. And I had been in disillusions with that sugar for many, many years, decades actually. And I guess somehow I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. Enough is enough. And I can apply to many other aspects of, we all have several of these kind of addictions. I hope that we do get a chance to talk what you said, Jeff, about the ultimate addiction, preoccupation with yourself. That I would love, as Christina said, to go into in more depth.
Yeah. And as I say, as we go along in this book, a lot of these different topics keep coming up again and again. And if it doesn't get gone into depth this time around, later on in later chapters, we're definitely going to go into things in depth. Any other comments before we have a heart-centered meditation? This heart-centered meditation is real valuable too if you have, some conflicts and everything in your life. It's very helpful for that. That's not necessarily the entire purpose of it, but we can all think of certain people we have difficulty with who could use our love instead of our negative thoughts or whatever. So any other comments? Feel free. Okay, well, let's go for it. Stu?
Okay, and I'll add a quick little story here, Jeff, before we get in. But not too long ago, my daughter called me. She and her husband had hired a contractor to renovate an office space for them. And they're having a lot of trouble with them. And her husband was going to meet with them the next morning and maybe tell them, all right, we're done with you. We can't go through this anymore. And I offered, well, how about we do the meditation process together and send love to the heart of the contractor. And so we did that, she and her husband and me. And the next morning, her husband had the meeting with the guy, and out of nowhere, the guy said, and my son-in-law brought up the issues, and the contractor said, I'm so sorry. I just want to start with a clean slate, and let me take off $1,000 and let's just start fresh. So you never know. Okay, so ready to go in. And if everybody could mute, that'd be great. So Jai Baba. Let's just start taking some deep, slow breaths into the belly. And we'll continue doing this the whole time. And just settle into wherever you're sitting or laying. And we'll let the world drift away even a little more while we do this. And now let's focus attention on your heart and your heart space. And breathe in there. And notice what you might feel and see as you settle in there. And this is the home in all of us of Baba's infinite love. It's a love he makes available to us all the time. And keep breathing into your heart. As we settle in more deeply there for another moment. And now pick somebody, one person, maybe a group, who you would like to share, focusing the gift of Baba's infinite love on them and their heart space. And let your heart guide you in choosing whoever comes up. And get a good image of them. And see their heart and heart space, and take note of what you might feel and see as you do this. And breathe into the image you have of them and their heart. And now start to see Meher Baba's infinite love just generously, without end, pouring into their heart and their heart space. So I see this warm, liquid, golden light, this delicious liquid love. And breathe in as you see Baba's love just flowing into their heart. And it's cleansing, healing, enlightening, forgiving. It's an endless, generous gift. And keep breathing in as you see Baba's love continue to flow without end into their hearts. Filling every corner, every little bit. And so much that it's overflowing. And it's flowing through as it does its magic. And now see Baba's love filling every bit of them, every bit of their being. And we never know what might come from this. And keep breathing in as you see and you feel Baba's infinite, endless love. Is flowing into them, every bit of them, and filling and cleaning their heart. And now let's give thanks for being able to focus, seeing Baba's infinite love flow to whoever it is in their heart and their heart space and their whole being. And know that you can return here again and again. And let's say farewell to them for now. And gently turn your attention back to your own heart and heart space. And breathe in as you settle in there. And notice what you might see and feel. And now start to see Baba's infinite love flowing into your heart. Just flowing in warmly, gently, without end. And filling every bit of your heart and your heart space. And this love is soothing, healing, enlightening, and inspiring, forgiving. And it's an endless gift that Baba makes available to us. And see and feel the love overflowing from your heart and heart space and flowing right through and now filling your entire being. And let yourself just bathe in this infinite love. And keep breathing in as you see and feel Baba's love fill and flow through and heal every bit of you, every bit of your heart and your whole being. And now let's give thanks for being able to focus, seeing and feeling Baba's infinite love, filling our hearts and our whole beings, and soothing, healing, forgiving, cleaning, inspiring. And know that you can return here again and again. Baba's infinite love is always there. And now gently start to bring your awareness back to wherever you're sitting or laying. And take a little time to return. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And if anybody would like to share anything from their experience, we'd love to hear from you.
It was so nice. I like the fact of using the word his infinite love, is somehow I forget about that infinite love. Like, yeah, somehow I just forget that it is unending and infinite. And it's just interesting, just in that word, to think it's infinite. You know, there's no end to it, because, you know, just feeling so limited in life right now. And so it's just nice, it's infinite love. Yeah. And because so recently these particular words of Baba, they're just so meaningful to me. It says, see me live in you, in the small things of life, the small ways of life, the everyday ritual of selfless harmony. And, you know, all this alone Corona time, and, you know, it's interesting. It's like all of our lives, just little things, brushing our teeth, whatever, just when we're all alone and taking care of ourselves, it's like the everyday ritual of selfless harmony. I mean, if we're doing it with Baba, it's like selfless harmony. I love that, selfless harmony. Anyway, that was just nice to think, infinite. Also, it makes me think of, in this effort and grace, that Darwin liked to think of that it's God-man, but he's also like infinite, and he has all the power of God, but he has the personal touch, that personal relationship. It makes it all the more beautiful. Yeah, and also it just seems like the whole theme of the book, in a way, is giving it all to Baba. And it's just such a process, you know. I mean, even the word surrender, you surrender, you surrender, you surrender. You know, it's like, we don't even know what surrender is, you know. You give it a try. And it's just all these layers. And yeah. Anyway, it's nice. I'm glad you used that word infinite in this heart-centering thing, because it's just so, it's such a trigger word. I mean, you know, infinite. No limit. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Rosalie. You know, back in the spring, I was doing some webinars through a consulting group, and I actually developed this meditation at the time. And once or twice, I didn't use the word infinite. And the leader of our group and another member, they both said to me afterwards, we missed the word. We missed the word infinite. It has such an effect on us. So ever since they said that, I've made a point to keep repeating it.
Oh yeah, no, it's true. It's like, I mean, how often do we use the word infinite? You know, our lives are so finite. so that it's such a trigger word though, but, because we don't use it. It's kind of precious.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Rosalie.
Yeah.
I'd like to share. Often in these meditations, I will go to my children, and specifically my son Kevin, who has not spoken to me for a year and a half, and he feels farther and farther away and more of a memory. And so I've had hope, Stu, when you say like the miraculous things, I guess I can't help but hope. I can't do it for that reason, but hope there might be something. And I don't know what's in the cards for that. I can't feel it. But in this one today, it was him who was the subject of the external focus. And I relived like him as a young baby and child and all of the love. And that was both with flowing to him and when it was Baba's love flowing to me. And it's just helped me remember the truth of the infinite love, but how it was experienced when he was young. And I don't know what's going to happen anymore. But it was very, very precious to remember the tender sweetness of the love that we did share as a mother and son many years ago. So thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Cindy. And I send Baba's love and light to him and you.
Cindy, one of my favorite quotes of Baba's, I've mentioned this before, that I used to keep it in my wallet back in the 70s until it eventually shredded. But Baba said, all differences between one another are merely superficial and cannot affect the love we feel for each other deep down. So the love is always there. Love does, it's there between us, and it's just hopefully the clouds will disperse and the sun will be right in front of our eyes. But it's not like the love is gone. The love is there between all of us, which is a beautiful thing.
Cindy, my son didn't speak to me for 2 years. I never found out why, but he suddenly started speaking to me. So have hope.
Yes, sending you hope and blessing. That sounds so difficult. Anyway, I have something to share. So when I was thinking, I was thinking of a very, very, very close friend, and I thought, no, maybe I should do somebody else. And then you said whoever came up, I said, okay, that friend. And so I was thinking of that golden light, and I got the image that Jeff brought up in this session of the tentacles and this love that flows like golden tentacles and goes into her heart and expands, and it's kind of like speckles until it totally covers it, and then it goes out through the arteries and veins and goes all over her and eventually engulfs her in this love of Baba's. And then we were to bring it back to ourselves. And I almost always think of Baba in the ocean, but I thought of it not as gigantic waves, but you know how it is some days when the waves have a lot of foam on the top. So this rolling foam, and again, usually when I see Baba, the love, it's like the rose gold colored, but it was sparkly because the sun was shining on it. And like Rosalie said, with the infinite, I was thinking of it, not only this ocean, but then going back to the beyond God and the beyond God. And then it coming in and then acting like, because it was foam, almost like Mr. Clean, like a scrubbing foam, and just cleansing. So cleansing, scintillating, light bearing, renewing, refreshing, clearing love.
Wonderful image, Elizabeth. Thank you.
I have to say that, Stuart, many a times during this meditation, I've been thinking of this particular relative that I feel so wronged by, and I can't help but have that desire for a different outcome. It's so funny. It's like just so ingrained. So I just have to just deal that that's there, I mean, who wouldn't want a better outcome with a person that you have just sour grapes with,
By the way, I wanted to piggyback on what Rosalie said about throwing the word infinite in there. I think in the references to infinite knowledge, infinite power, and infinite bliss in the prayer of Pravartigar prayer. When I think of there's a spiritual practice I have when I have like a fear or a resentment, and part of it is talking to Mara Baba about it. And I'm not going to say who it was, but it's someone that could be considered a resident. I was talking to him and I said, instead of doing service work for someone else, I just started repeating Baba's name. And he said that it was perfect because, again, well, when I think of love, Baba's will is everything. It's from the lowest of the low, or the actions of the lowest of the low, to the highest of the high. It's that full range. And I think a lot of people forget that. And most people, I predict, won't have a clue. And I think to throw in the word infinite allows the imagination to get more honest, to get more truthful, and to like spread the awareness out. And when I think of infinite love, who am I to know what's best for somebody else? Who am I to know what they need? And to say infinite love, again, in my opinion, it expands the word. I'm grasping here. So I'm also just thinking about what Cindy said. I think somehow in other people's mind, love is too general. Love is too simple. But to say infinite love puts it in a more of a divine expansive realm. And I mean, my heart goes out to Cindy. I'll just say it simply. When I got on my path, I focused on spiritual practices because I thought they were going to bring my family together. That was the intention, was to bring my family together, to create a happy family, and it did the opposite of that. It did the opposite. So now so to me, I have to learn how to be as content as I can with having with the absence of it. But I still, I hope you get your brother back. Maybe just time heals all wounds. Never mind. I'll pass with that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks a lot, Peter.
Jai Baba Stu, I just sent out a message to you saying this heart-centered meditation has been so beautiful. We've had some recent struggles in my family with health woes and health issues within my family, and we've just taken to this meditation as a constant practice, and it just helps us deeply connect with each other and with Baba so much.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And her family's over in Pune, so she's got 10,000 miles.
Oh, well, the love can travel the whole distance. Yeah. I'm happy to hear that, Shraddha, and sending all the best, sending love.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jai Baba.
Good night, dear people. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Good
Great.
night, Cindy.
Thank
you.
Thanks.
Baba.
Good night, Cindy.
Night.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
Hey,
Baba.
Baba.
Blessing.
Good night, everybody.
We're
Good night.
supporting you on all
Yeah.
of that for Kevin.
thank you. Thank
Jai
you.
Baba.
You know, everybody goes where the love is eventually.
There's a lot of love here. You know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is. There is.
Jay Baba, everyone. Jay Baba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jay Baba.
Jay
Jay
Bob, dear people.
Jai
Yeah.
Baba.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Stu. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for
Yeah.
everybody who
Sure.
contributed.
Thank you,
Fabulous.
Baba, for bringing us together here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for continuing this. That is so great that you're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, and we're so happy you're doing it.
No,
So
thank you. Yeah.
thanks for the tentacle image.
Yeah. Yeah. You had a different kind of tentacles going there. That's good. Right
Yeah,
up through the bloodstream.
I just wish I could get the octopus out of my head.
Yeah.
No, that was a great image. Great image. And the foam. The foam.
Oh yeah, the foam was a
Yeah.
good one. And then I don't know why I thought about Mr. Clean, but I mean, I guess it's Baba's humor that I would think of that too. I guess you know the Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. Just a minute, and everything that's in it, Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
You know, Rumi has a great quote, a million galaxies. He's talking about the ocean of love. A million galaxies are only a speck of foam on that shoreless sea.
Wow.
A million
Oh my-
galaxies are only a speck of foam on that shoreless sea of love.
Boy, that's an image.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Speck of foam. And I had all that foam coming at me. How many galaxies? Well, Che Bob, everybody. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
Che
say
Bob.
goodbye.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Baba,
much.
thanks too.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, see you,
Bye,
Lenita.
Melanie.
Okay, Lenita.
Bye,
Thank you for the
Lenita.
meditation, Stuart. It's beautiful. I love to do every time, and it's so wonderful, you know.
Glad you're here, Lenita.
To be in the
And-
Baba's love like this, you know, to have the time to take this time to just to bathe ourselves in Baba's love is really
Yeah.
it's a precious gift that you're giving to us, and
I wonder if it did it put Prakash to sleep though. We wonder.
thank you, Jeff. Thanks for
Yeah. See
Okay.
you, Lenita.
meeting.
Thanks,
Great.
Lenita.
So much. Jai Baba, Jai Meher Baba.
Hey,
Baba.
Baba.
I'm gonna go eat.
Hey, Baba.
All right. Let's sign off.
Yeah. Thank you, Stu. Much love.
Much love to you. Okay. Jay Baba.
Hey, Baba.